I don't know about you, but I feel like circles are so much more peaceful than squares, probably because they just feel more organic and loose and free than a hard square edge does. And so for today's Art for Inner Peace, we're going to do a little twist on grid paintings. So if you don't know what grid paintings are, I'll link to a few of my videos in the description below, but basically we draw squares on our page and fill them with all kinds of different marks. So instead of doing squares today, we're going to do circles. So I am just going to freehand circles on my page. Just 3 across, 3 down, 9's a good number. If you want your circles to be really precise, then you can certainly trace something circular that you have, but I don't really care. So I'm just gonna work with my sketch. So I do like to start with pencil, so I'm just gonna start making marks in these. Just helps me get started. If you're afraid to make a mark on a page, start with a pencil. Big tip. So the other week, I did a video with Payne's Gray, Burnt Umber, and White, and those colors just felt so peaceful to me. So I thought they would be a good combination for this week also. So I have this scraper. It's one of my favorite scrapers. I don't even remember where I got it, but I love this thing. So I'm gonna start making marks with it, and I'm just gonna use Payne's Gray on its own here. And as you're doing this, just kind of think about if you did a big mark of Payne's Gray in one, see what a tiny mark looks like. Just kind of go with the flow and see what happens. So I chose this because it's big, and I did that on purpose because I can't be precise with it. And so it forces me to just make a mark and live with it, which is a good thing sometimes if you tend to try to make everything exact. Remember, we're doing this for the process, not for any specific outcome. So I am going to get my palette knife. I'm gonna mix some Payne's Gray and Burnt Umber together. It makes a really beautiful blue-gray when you put it with white. Okay, so again, I'm using this palette knife, which is kind of big for these circles, but I'm doing that on purpose. I like to make big, loose, abstract type marks on my paintings, and so when I do it on something this size, it kind of gives me ideas for what I can do on a painting. That's why I love these things so much. I really like texture, and so finding different ways to add texture to my paintings too is always a fun practice for me. So I hope you enjoy these as much as I do. They're wonderful to do on a day when you aren't sure what you want to create, because you don't really have to think about it. Just draw some circles or squares like the other ones and start putting marks down on the page. Let's see, I have, I guess I'll use a brush for a little bit. And again, I'm gonna use a pretty big brush compared to the circles on purpose. Get some of this burnt umber. See what shapes we can make. The burnt umber looks actually really nice next to that blue. It's so warm against those cool colors. And if any of your circles start getting too busy, which mine always do, that's when I come in with white or just a very light color to start pulling things back. But it's completely up to you. It's whatever you like. I like how wild these get at first, and then I like to see what happens when I push things back and get some white space back in them. I also have a Neocolor crayon here. Which colors do I have? I have a gray one. So I'm gonna add some marks with this Neocolor crayon. So these are also a fun place to just practice with new supplies you might get and you aren't sure how they work yet. Or just to see what they look like with certain paint. So this color is really nice. It's called grayish black, but I feel like it has like a blue tint when you put it next to these blues. So that's interesting. And I really just love to scribble with these things. I love the texture they give and I love scribbling. So one of my favorite mark making tools to have around. Like I said, these are getting a little crazy, so I'm gonna start pushing them back with some white. But I'm gonna let them dry for a minute. If I don't let them dry, then they're just gonna be a muddy mess. So I'll be back when they're dry. Okay, the ones that I want to work on are dry now. So I mixed up a little bit of burnt umber with a lot of white to get a really light shade, just to see what happens when I cut back on some of this. Some of it's not quite dry, but it was close enough for the parts that I wanted to do. So I just covered that dark area with the light, and that is a great spot to practice dragging something through your paint, because you can see the color underneath. It's so fun. Also one of my favorite things to do. It works best when it's light over dark or dark over light, because then you can really see what's underneath. Okay, so now I'm just gonna add some more mark making in. I'm looking for this stick. I'm dragging it in my Payne's Gray because it's nice and dark. And so now I have these white blank spaces on these. They kind of look out of place. And so I'm like, how do I integrate them back into the painting? So I'm just gonna add some darker marks back on here. I like using sticks because you cannot predict what they're going to do or how much paint they're actually going to spread on the page. And then I think I will add some more in. I'm going to mix more Payne's Gray with the burnt umber, but I'm going to keep it dark this time. So I've got like almost like a charcoal gray going on there. So I am going to use this little tiny brush and just add some marks in with this color. This is all just part of having a creative practice because I'm not creating paintings every day, even as an artist. And this just gives me a reason to keep creating, even if I don't want to work on a full-on painting. And I really just like to encourage all of you to just have a practice. You don't have to be an artist to enjoy the benefits of creativity, and there are so many benefits. I could go on and on and on about the benefits of creating that science has proven. They're really studying a lot now into creativity in the mind in neuroscience, and it's kind of fascinating. Like, of course, I know firsthand, I've experienced the mindfulness and peace that comes from creating something, but now that science is proving that it's true, I'm like, oh, okay. That's just showing me that I have experienced what they're talking about. This is interesting with circles because I can practice with the like curvy lines to see how that looks. All right, these are looking pretty good. I think I want a bit more light areas. So I'm gonna use some pure white and just add some marks in with that. I have this nail that I use to scratch through paint, but it also makes really good tiny dots. So I like to use it for that too. And if I want bigger dots, I can use this end, and that makes big dots. I have had this thing for years. I don't know how I haven't lost it yet. It just came from my husband's toolbox, so it's kind of funny that it has stuck around this long. And you don't have to just do dots. You can do textured lines with it too. I think I'll add dots to this. I think I'll get that tiny brush again and make a few marks with the white, and that will probably be about it. This one's still pretty wet, so I'm more gray than white on that one. That made a really pretty blue. Add that into some of these other ones. And then if you want to do final scribbles, you can always grab your pencil again and just add some back in. I love to do that. Something very satisfying about the feel of pencil on this page. So there we go. Our twist on our grid paintings for a more peaceful exercise. I hope you liked that. Let me know if you try it in the comments below, and I hope to see you next time. Thanks for joining me today. I'm all about helping you grow your own creative practice full of peace, intention, and curious exploration. Find out more when you visit jenfletcherart.com. I'll see you soon.